when it comes to like your kind of thought process, are you kind of like how do you kind of tackle things when it comes to like the idea side of things, like just generating ideas?
Well, if you, I mean, you read my article, so you'll see that I
Yeah,
did a lot of paintovers,
yeah,
a lot of paintovers. Those are just some of the paintovers. A lot of the times, I'll rough out a block out.
mm-hmm.
My spaceship was a cylinder for the longest time, just like a red cylinder, because I knew that
Right,
red is scary and dangerous. So,
mm-hmm.
uh, I did it like I would have screenshots from left and right and everywhere, and I just like draw, and I'd be like, does this seem cool? Like, does this make sense? Will this sort of lead the eye the way I want it to? If I place a huge tendril over here, is that going to be too distracting?
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of planning like that, and I did a lot of blockouts. So
Yeah,
if I didn't have the prop ready, I just put a box there.
mm-hmm.
I tried that as much as I could, just putting boxes and cylinders and whatever that. Like my bushes were just spheres for the longest time. They're just green, ugly spheres for just a really, really long time.
Yeah.
I had a very bubbly bush backyard.
Perfect.
Um, but it worked because it gave me
Exactly,
a
it's the
visual
blockout.
idea. Yeah. So I'm very visual. I'm very like I can't really think. Uh, I don't know. I can't really think. Apparently, let's just end it there. I can't really
No,
think.
that's okay. That's fine. Like,
But yeah, I'm very visual. I do a lot of paint oversight. That's how I think about things a lot.
mhm. I
Think
just
about composition as well.
do you. What's your thoughts on when students or when people tell 3D students you don't need to draw? What's your thoughts on that? Because I feel drawing is so important and it has such a value. Like for example, when you were blocking out the pathway of the alien and how it would react with the building, like being able to sketch that, or just have it doesn't have to be perfect, like just roughly getting an idea of how things go and iterating after iterating and understanding how shapes work and how to be more creative. Like how much value does the sketch have on your process as a whole?
Pretty high value, but at the same time, I don't spend a lot of time refining it.
Of
Like,
course,
I
yeah.
think that if you're a 3D artist, if you're purely going for 3D, then being able to draw is not super important. At least not being able to draw well, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
be able to
Yeah.
draw like you don't need stickmen obviously, but like if you're going to be an environment artist, you're not even going to be drawing people, so you might as well just draw a stickman if you're going to like show that there's a person there.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like lines and forms, like everyone can draw a box. It
Yeah.
might not have the correct perspective, like you might not have an idea of how to do proper perspective, but you can draw a box and you know where it's going to be, and then when you put an actual box there, it's like, yeah, okay, this kind of fits,
Mm-hmm.
right? uh, I think also doing blockouts in 3D and then drawing over them is like that's what concept artists, a lot of them are doing right now.
Yeah,
uh,
that's what I do.
so that you can like rough something out either in Unreal or in Blender or in Maya or wherever. Just put a shit ton of boxes and cylinders and whatever because I find it easier to visualize things in 3D
Mm-hmm.
than I do in 2D sometimes, because I'm not that great at like the perspectives and all like sometimes I draw and I'm like, damn, I'm not getting to where I want it to be, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
have an idea of what I want it to look like, but I
Of
just
course.
I can't draw it. So sometimes I just use 3D, make a rough thing, and then draw something over that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people should just like it's getting more and more accepted right now to
Yeah.
use 3D as a blockout phase and to help you with perspective and whatnot. So, but I don't think you need to be good. I don't think
Yeah.
it depends a bit on what you want to do. If you want to do like super intricate, like God of War type of awesome sculpts,
Mm-hmm.
then you might need to be good at drawing, or at least you might need to be good at designing stuff, because a
Yeah.
lot of that has to do with designing shapes and forms.
Nailed it.
Uh,
Cause
but yeah, you don't need to you don't need good shading and shit.
yeah, like when it comes to like for example the drawing side of things, like my main thing that's helped me so much is photo bashing.
Yeah,
So I literally just photo bash like crazy. I experiment with shapes to see what works. I try to understand obviously the fundamentals in terms of your big shapes and then your little shapes, you name it, and keep building up from there. And the more habit that we as artists I got a feeling it's getting a lot better, but I still feel that people don't prioritize it enough. In the sense that when it comes to seeing certain people's artwork, like I still got a lot, many ways to go in terms of my development as an artist, but I understand, like I feel like I've got a good understanding of like the main important parts, and
Hmm.
I appreciate it at least, or I at least acknowledge it. And I feel like the more people start actually doing kind of just those rough sketches and getting more loose and just being open to trying new things, like they'll just get so much better. If you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
it'll just propel themselves because they're not stressing out so much, just being perfect all the time.
Yeah, I think I also have the sometimes when I'm modeling stuff as well, which I know that sometimes for UVs and whatever, it's nice to do like perfect symmetry and perfect like clean stuff. But
Hmm.
every now and then, I'm just like I just want to model and not worry too much if all the bevels are exactly the same thing, and
Of
if all the
course.
like if everything is super super like the same like everything is every vertex is like aligned properly on like a flat plane like stuff isn't perfect like
Yeah.
when you see stuff it's not stuff isn't always perfect stuff being manufactured they're not all straight lines they're not
Yeah.
all like perfect things the manufacturing errors happen and it just sometimes that actually helps make stuff feel more real because it's those small imperfections make up something that looks pretty good
Yeah.
so I've been trying to break out of that habit of being so meticulous about placing everything in the perfect place,
Hmm.
and just trying to be a bit more loose and fast about it.
That's great.
Because I mean, you can still have a symmetry on one axis, but overall, I don't know. It's nice. It's nice to just be a little bit creative about it.
You just feel
Um,
so much more relaxed, don't you? Like when you when you just take that away a wee bit,
yeah,
because
you're just in the zone. You're just modeling. If it looks good, it looks good, right? You don't have
of
to worry
course,
too much about like UVs, when you're thinking about texturing and UVing, then for the most part, it's uh, right now with like Substance and Mixer and whatever you may be using, Mari, you can hide seams so well.
yeah,
So, so there's like, I don't know, less of an issue with some of these things.
it certainly is. Like there's so many tools out there that at the day, like if you can cheat something, then why not go ahead? At the end of the day, like you want to make the
Oh, I'm
best
all
art
for
piece that you
cheating.
can.
Cheating
Like
is the best.
you've got to make the most of it. So when it comes to this project, so when it comes to modeling,
Yeah.
when it comes to like the, I guess more of the technical side of things, when it
Hmm.
came to making this house, what was your kind of process? Like how did you kind of approach this?
So, like I said, this is my first environment, so I didn't really know where to start. When we started, I was like asking Kevin, like, okay, should I do everything modularly? Should I like uh, make modular like wall pieces and then place them like make the pieces together in Unreal? And he's like, well, you can do a little bit of both
Mm-hmm.
because this is sort of my one hero piece. So I don't need to make like I'm not making a city out of these pieces.
Of
So I
course.
don't need them to be super flexible. And so I'm like, okay, cool. So I can make this sort of like a less modular piece. And so what I did is my tower is one piece.
Mm-hmm.
My south, the southern part of the building is one piece, and the eastern part of the building is one piece, right?
Yeah.
So these are larger chunks. But then all the windows are modular pieces, so they're like I can place them and skew them and do whatever I want. They're not built in. All the uh, what's it called? Like the balusters, I think they're called.
Right.
They're all modular little chunks, so like 2 meter chunks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a lot of things that are just like tacked on here and there. So there's definitely for me it was more about getting the smaller pieces as modular, and then the bigger pieces as just unique pieces because I wasn't interested in really going around and making like a bunch like constructing the whole house out of a set amount of kit pieces. I just wanted it to look good the exact way that I needed it to look good. So I
Yeah.
had more flexibility there, I guess.
I think that's like the really nice thing. Like when I was going through your breakdown, I think it was really nice to see that at the end of the day, like having the things separated makes it so much easier, like you said, to control and painter and designer.
Yeah.
Because at the day, it's like it would be more of a hassle, and especially one of the interesting things is I'm not sure what you call it, but do you know when the tower is going into the house and then it's not like perfectly connected up?
I don't know what it's called, but yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like the ear do I. Like, when I was reading it, I was like, I wonder what this is. Like Victorian houses, why are they designed like this? How is this? How is this a
Wow.
thing? But it was so interesting. Like that was the cool thing because you're also reading into architecture books,
Oh
and
yeah.
and do you remember the name of the architecture book for the Victorian houses that helped you out?
Oh, I don't.
Because like if you do, it'd be
I'm
great if you could send it over. Even if you don't
I'm
remember
sure
the
I can
name.
ask. I can ask Douglas because he has that book.
Mm-hmm.
He sat next to me and fed me cookies.
Oh, perfect.
Uh,
Can't go wrong with the cookies. Got to get the cookies going.
yeah, and he has just a wealth of knowledge, and he had a bunch of old books like that. So it was some sort of um, so back in like the 1920s, maybe still I don't know, but at least back then,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the houses built were built by like the blueprints were of the same company. So the book was basically that company's ad for
Wait,
these types
right.
of
Nice.
stuff, and it has all sorts of things. Like it went way more in depth than what I needed it to. But
Mm-hmm.
if I were to make an interior, I had probably 100 pages on like different colors for the walls that were supposed to be used, how the layouts of the rooms were supposed to be, the different trims for the bottom and the top of your wall,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like the shapes of these trims, shapes of all these things. Like I had so much stuff that was just insanely good.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I will see if I can find that book. I'll ask Douglas about it, but
Like that would be much appreciated. No pressure if you can. It's fine. Like I'll be able to showcase the images that you've done through your article because I think it's so nice to see when people go like this goes back to what we were discussing earlier. It's like understanding what's going on and giving it
yeah,
that layer of detail, but most importantly, making sure that you remember it because it helps translate into your other work and appreciate how like this is actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and it'd be really cool to hear what you say. What's it been like, or what's like the? Have you seen any major difference between what it's like living in Norway to what it's like living in Canada, in the sense that, in terms of like the way they make things? Do you know what I mean? So is there?
houses, you mean?
Well, yeah. Is there anything like different that you've just realized? Because here in Scotland, in the UK, everything's just bricks, bricks, bricks. Whereas
Right.
in like America, I know a lot of their houses are made just of wood, and
Well,
I just.
I find it opposite here. Actually, I find that when I was in Vancouver, there was like a street that had wooden houses, but otherwise they're all bricks.
Mm-hmm.
They're all just like concrete and brick houses, and they're all really, 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 really tall.
Yeah,
Uh, and back home in Norway, it's mostly wooden houses.
yeah.
So I was very it's very strange when I suddenly see a wooden house when I'm here in Canada because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh shit, like that's I recognize that like
Yeah.
style of housing. But also like I live in the 26th floor here, and I think that's like where I live at home. It's on like well when I where I lived in Norway was on the sixth floor, which is
Yeah.
20 floors less, and that was a pretty tall building there.
Mm-hmm.
So just the verticality of things is just very wild here.
Completely different. No, because
Yeah.
the reason why I wanted to ask you that is because it's those kind of experiences that really just make you go, wait, whoa, that's completely different. You completely
Yeah.
rethink things because it goes back to how things are made in different cultures, adding different story. Like, for example, it's Victorian times. This building is based around, so understanding how that great contrast of this old building to the future of aliens, like it just gives like that really nice story, like we discussed, and it's going into depth about your props and understanding how they're made. I just wanted to ask you. I was really curious, like if anything actually stood out. But the fact that you said that, no, that's really cool.
I mean, it sends out like just being like I work downtown now. Well, not
Mhm.
anymore. I'm at home, but uh, the office is downtown, and it's like right in the middle of skyscraper downtown, and I'm still not used to them. I'm I look up every day
Yeah.
because it's just like, oh, how is it so tall? Like, what
This is
the
so big.
hell? Like, how did I even like all these windows? How do they clean them? Like, I know
Yeah.
how they clean them, but it's like that's scary, man. Like,
Oh, dude,
I
I'd
don't
be
know. It's
terrified.
wild.
Oh, this is a story, man. This. So my dad was doing this. He was fixing this massive window and this frame of this huge kind of shopping center, and
Yeah.
the shopping center main hall is this massive dome, like hundreds of meters really high up. and my dad's just hanging there on a what do you call it, a harness, and he's just
Yeah.
getting pulled up by the guys at the bottom, and then the machine just holding him round, and
Oh
then
God.
he's just there just fixing it, and I'm just looking up. I'm just like, yep, I'm not for that life.
Yeah, he's not afraid of heights, at least.
Oh no, he just works away. He's just singing a song. We have his little radio up there, a little sandwich box, you name it. He's just working
Nice.
away, and I'm just like, Dad, how do you survive this? I
Yeah,
was like,
I would.
I'm just there at the bottom. Don't fall, don't fall, don't fall.
I used to not be afraid of heights, but then I went to Paris and I went into the Eiffel Tower and it moves.
What?
When you're up
Okay,
top there, yeah, when you're on the top of the Eiffel
I didn't
Tower,
know
it
this.
moves in the wind.
What?
And I was like, this is horrible. I want to go down.
I'm not for that life. Get rid of that. No, that. This is maybe a famous attraction as well. Talk about safety first.
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh gosh! Like I would no. Oh, that's just giving me the thoughts. Oh, I don't like that at all. Let's change the subject, man. Next subject. Let's talk about 3D again. Sorry.
Yeah. Go back to 3D.
Get away with heights. Heights go away. Like flying. I conquered my fear of flying. And that took me a long time. We're not talking about
Oh,
heights.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a whole story, man, about flying. Like my dad always used to watch those air crash investigations.
Oh,
And
yeah. Those are good.
yeah, good, but yeah, I'm not sure if it's good when you're flying all the time. I was like, Dad, you're not helping matters, please. Calm down, please. And he's like, nope. And then he'll be like, Ross, do you know that this wing easily breaks if you make it this way? I was like, Dad, this ain't helping anything, please. You can tell he likes having a good laugh now and then.
Yeah.
Right, so the next thing I thought would be really cool to talk about, because we were talking about it right at the start, was the destruction of things.
Yep.
So when it comes to making destruction, I understand.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Oh, you you have no, well, that's the great thing. So this is the best thing about doing podcasts is it's about not knowing things, and that's always like the cool things, because it's like when you said about trial and errors, like I did this so many times, and I was like,
Yeah.
great, that's what I want to hear about. Is because at the end of the day, it's like you had the choice between, right, do I do it simulation or do I do it by hand, and then it'd be great to hear about why you ended up going by hand, because I know why, but it'd be great to
Yeah.
hear your perspective.
So, I mean, I guess there's two ways or two reasons why I did it by hand. One is, hey, you get to art direct it. So you
Mm-hmm.
can do it exactly how you want it to be. You can put every piece how you want it to be, and it'll look just fine and dandy. So that's great. But also, the most important thing is that I have no idea how to do simulation like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I was at ThinkTank, I was learning all these software. And I think I mentioned that in my article too, where I was learning ZBrush, I was learning Substance Painter, I was learning Substance Designer, I was learning Unreal. I'd never touched Unreal before, so this
Yeah.
is like literally the first time I'm doing that. Uh, and I was like, okay, I need to have a destroyed thing. I did a little like I did some tests. I did like a live Boolean cylinder through the entire roof, and I was like, okay, cool. That's maybe a little bit too much. Let's dial it down a little bit. And I was like, I was constructing the bricks. I made every single brick as individual
Oh
pieces
my
because I knew
gosh,
that
right.
I
Wow.
mean it's pretty quick, but it's because you can copy them pretty quickly over. But like I made the entire thing
Yeah.
with the joists and the support beams and the bricks and the outer layers and like
The
everything. I made
plaster, you name it.
plaster, the membrane between, like all these sort of things I made. And because I knew that I was like, oh shit, I might be doing like a simulation, I'd be doing like some sort of destruction simulation.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got down to it and had this ready for trial, I guess, uh, I tried a little bit
Mm-hmm.
for like a day or two. I was like crashing a cube through the thing, and I was like, it's not super hard to set up basic destruction.
Okay.
Everything just becomes like a rigid body, and then you make sure that your whatever you're crashing through is also, and then they react with each other. Like great, but then you also have to make sure that there's enough like subdivisions and stuff that they can like actually deform properly or
Yeah.
break off properly. Like you have to go through all sorts of like you need to probably like I said, I didn't do much of it, but I tried a little bit. So sometimes you have to like shatter things. Like if stuff is going to be actually breaking off, you have to like run, or you have to, but like you can run like a shatter node and make sure that it's actually different pieces, and then you have to
Oh
make
my
sure
gosh.
in the like physics thing to make sure that these pieces, they need to be glued together, but if something hits them, they need to fall apart, or at least somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, damn, this is, I don't have the brain or the patience for this.
It's a
Like,
lot to take in.
I knew right away that like I only have 4 months to do this mentorship. I have 4 months to leech as much information as I can out of Kevin and out of everyone that's surrounding me. Because like the students at ThinkTank, they were and they probably still are amazing, right? They are a wealth of knowledge, and that's why I loved being there because you can literally turn around and you're like, damn, that guy's doing some cool stuff. Or like, whoa, she's really making some moves over there, right?
Yeah.
So I just knew that okay, the simulation is not for me. I'm like I'd love to be able to do it at some
Mm-hmm.
point, and I'd love to be able to do some like even if it's just basic simulation stuff. But it's just I would have spent so much time doing it, and if I wasn't happy with it, if I wasn't happy with how it turned out, then I'd have to run another simulation, and I have to like keep iterating at it. And like the truth is that like the destruction I did now, I even when I found the shape that I actually wanted,
Mm-hmm.
I still iterated on it. Like I still made changes the week before I put it up,
Yep.
and that's just it was a bit easier for me to do that
Yeah.
when it wasn't like a simulation I had to run through.
Of course. No, that's the really cool thing because I think at the day, even though you realize that simulation wasn't for you, because I understand that simulation is this. There's so much. It's such a complex. It's not. Well, I might quote me if I'm wrong. I don't know. It depends.
Sure.
It's all down to industry. I think it depends on the VFX versus AAA. You name it. But at the day, it's like it's not something you would be assigned. If you know what I mean. Like it would be
Right.
a very particular department that would be doing that. However, experiment with it. At least give it a go and see what happens. Because I remember the first time I gave it a go when it was literally my first year coming across 3D, I was like, you know what? I can make the coolest wall break. As little did I know, it was the worst wall breaking of all time. But anyway, I
But it
tried
worked.
it. Yeah, I tried it. It made a little hole, and instead of making an epic cool hole, it was like it was almost like a massive like almost wrecking ball that would just like almost bounce off a wall and just nothing happened. You just see a little smudge. That was literally
Yeah.
that was the skill set I had for my first year. The confidence was there and the belief, and just I was like, this is going to break this wall with all my might. Nothing happened, but there was a
Because you have
smile
to
and
find
laugh.
all the right you have to find all the right parameters. You have to find all the like why isn't it breaking, and you have to think
Yeah.
like maybe it's not breaking because stuff is glued together too much, or like
Mhm.
there's too much friction. Maybe you need less friction, but then suddenly you throw your wrecking ball through it, and now it just like breaks like paper. I was like, no,
Yeah.
it's not
It's
wall.
not paper. It's a gosh darn it. No, because like that's the thing that you doing it the traditional way of simply just modeling it though. Like that would have been really interesting. Like that would have been a very kind of great experience because then you would have realized right how do I actually model this by hand,
Yeah.
and it's
So
like what was
that's
that experience like?
a lot of reference.
Mm-hmm.
It's I mean it's sad to say, but you get a lot of good reference from like wartime
Of course, no,
photo,
that
or like
great
if
example.
you look at like uh, buildings that have had like missiles shot through them and stuff like that, you see a lot of good looking shapes. Thankfully, oftentimes you only see the building and not like the rest of the destruction in the wake. But yeah, so you just have to find out like what looks good, what's cool. A lot of burnt down buildings because when buildings burn, oftentimes they lose a lot of the stability, and so they sort of collapse on each other.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff, and just some creative freedom on top of it, I guess. Just because you have to like, it has to be believable, but it
Mm-hmm.
also has to because I mean I had all because I had all the stuff already made
Yeah.
from doing simulation. Like I obviously removed all the breaks because I didn't need 1,000 and some breaks,
Of
but
course.
I had all the support beams, I had all the joists, I had everything that was like important for me. So when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, what if this alien pushes through on the side of that sort of extrusion of the building?
Mm-hmm.
What will happen then if it crashes through the support beam that's in the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well maybe the top is going to start sinking down because it doesn't have anything to support it. Okay, so the top now sinks down. I'm like pulling on all these vertices. I'm like, now
That's
it's kind
cool.
of lopsided. Okay, what about this other like the top piece? It's being held together because all these planks are nailed to each other, so that it's going to be a bit hard to get all these planks separated. So a lot of these planks are going to stay together, but they're still going to, it's going to add weight. It's going to make it fall out. It's going to, all these things that I'm sort of thinking, I might be total bullshit, but I'm just trying to think of how it would react in terms of weight and physics,
Yeah,
but not actually doing any weight and physics.
of course. No, that's the great way to answer it, and that's like understanding how to give it that kind of believable like feeling that it's actually falling down. Like
Yeah,
getting like being able to nail that and make it actually feel right. You can tell this alien, like for example, even when it's moving, like how much more movement will actually cause it to break. And it's like getting that across in your textures as well in designer, like making sure that you can just tell, like especially at the bottom, like if that's going to is like the foundation's going to collapse. And
yeah,
it's like if you can think of these things and break it down, and that's what I think where you get so much value by doing it through the modeling way rather than the simulation. Even though the simulation will add a lot of value in terms of maybe the quality in regards to believability, like all the small like nooks and crannies, you name it. However, in terms of the long game in regards to your process as an artist and development, you'll get way more by actually doing it yourself.
absolutely. I think it was fun. I still feel like a little bit of FOMO about the loss of the simulation. Like I wish I could have done it, but at the same time, the fact that I can really art direct it and make sure it looks exactly how wanted it to look,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty good as well.
Awesome.
Not sad about that.
No, dude, you should not be sad at all. It is incredible. So we've got two more topics before we get into the most fun random section of the podcast. As always, folks, we've got 500 seconds coming up, so be ready to be bombarded, man, with lots of questions. The most random as you name it. So before we do that, we're going to talk about two last questions. I want to talk about Foilage and then also the topic that me and Trym were talking right at the start. So you know what we're talking about, man.
Shaders.
Well, we could talk about shaders, but I was going to talk about the question one, so
Oh,
the technical and
right,
artistic one.
right. Well, okay, gotcha.
But we can talk about the shaders as well. Briefly, I understand obviously you were saying about your friends was incredibly helpful for
Hmm.
that side of things. But speaking of Voyage, when
Yep.
it comes to obviously SpeedTree, I know you use SpeedTree and you're learning
A
a
little
lot.
bit.
Just a little bit, yeah, just a little bit. Just had to
Yep.
make 1,000 trees, a billion leaves for this environment. Oh, that was so cool when I was talking to you last week. Talking to you about Voyage, and you were like, "Yeah, I need to step away from
Yeah,
Voyage for a little bit. I need my rest.
yeah, yeah. I'm done with foliage for now.
Yeah, I need my break. Just give me a wee bit of breathing space for now." So when it comes to this is an interesting one. I wanted to ask you this because I've been
Yeah,
talking a lot about SpeedTree for my last three guests. So I want to change it up a wee bit. When it
change
comes
it up.
to you working with making all these different trees, what did you actually learn about making trees? I know it probably sounds silly, but what did you get across from these different types of trees, and what was like the main thing you learned from it?
So trees are really weird.
Yeah,
That's
I completely
yeah,
agree. There's so much to them.
yeah. I think so. I actually used a combination of speed tree. I used a free one as well called Tree It.
Tree its
Uh,
right? Okay, I've never heard of
Tree
that.
It, which is a free version of. It's kind of like a speed tree, except a lot more bare bones. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's not really developing anymore, but it's pretty decent. You get some decent results out of it. So that was like I used Tree It for my blockout trees,
Nice.
because I hadn't tried speed tree yet. And I got some decent ones from that. And then after that, I moved to Speedtree, and I was like, "Whoa, the options that I get! Holy shit!
Here
Like
we go.
that's all right. Let's go. Let's get into it." It's really cool because you can sort of you can go about it different ways. You can go about it just a way where I have a very strange way of approaching new software. I just kind of open the software and then I change everything.
Okay,
Like
nice.
I every dial, every slider, every number, I'm like, what does this do? What does this do? What does this do? And so my trees were looking really ugly at some point because they were a lot of like sliders had been moved.
Some funky looking trees over there, boy.
Yes, definitely the funky looking trees. So what I talked a little bit to Rudy. He's a guy at Ubisoft. I
Mm-hmm.
think he won the feudal.
Feudal
Let me
Japan?
remember. yeah. Rudy, oh man, what is his name? He's an amazing foliage artist.
Right, nice.
Um, at Ubisoft, and so I talked a little bit to him and I asked him like how he approaches making trees, and uh, he's like, yeah, just like make Rudy Lamotte. That's his name,
Oh, right,
Lamotte.
okay.
Yeah,
I'll have to check him out.
uh, like make one hero tree of each variation of trees you want to make, and then make a bunch of smaller, less important trees, basically, or like they don't have to be smaller, but they need to be less detailed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't know if I really made any hero trees, but I definitely made some trees that I spent more time trying to get like the branches looking good. Like
Yeah.
for the trees that are closer to the beginning, like when you're first approaching the house,
Mm-hmm.
uh, there's a bit more subdivisions in those trees because I wanted the branches to be curved properly. Um, Instead of being like you can see the polygons basically, right?
Yeah.
Some of these trees further away, you can actually see the polygons if you go close to them, but they're not important trees. They're just like filler trees.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Really cool is that with Speed Tree, you can make a tree, have it be looking good, and then you can just hit the randomize button, and you get a tree that's looking also good, and it's based on the parameters that you've already made.
So you only
Uh,
have to make one.
you make
Oh, I
one.
did not know this. Right,
Well,
okay.
sort of yes and no. So what I did is I made one hero tree, sort of. I made one tree that I spent a lot of time tweaking and making sure because you can move each branch as well. You can grab like uh, the locator of the branch and you can move it up and down. So if you definitely want to be like super specific about it, you can do that. And so I did that for one or two trees, and then I would make like a generic birch tree
Mm-hmm.
or like a generic whatever tree, like oak tree,
Okay.
and then I just run randomize on it like three times, and I'd say about three different trees from that.
That's
'Cause
awesome.
you get everything you need. Like it looks like a tree. Does it speak like a tree? Yeah. Does it talk like like does it smell like a tree? Yeah, it
Smell like,
smells
oh,
like a
back to the
tree.
smell. You got to get has to smell like a tree, man. Have you
Yeah,
not got the smell right? It's all wrong. It's all about
it
the smell of
smells
the
like a
tree.
tree. So I was like, all right, all these trees are smelling like trees. Let's go.
They're smelling great, folks.
It's also pretty cool because you can basically you can reduce a lot of the geometry for the trees as well. Like it has its own built-in sort of lotting system.
Right, nice.
Um, so that's it's pretty nice as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever you can do to make it load quicker, can't beat it. Like
Kind of, yeah.
at the day when it comes to render, there's nothing worse than a slow render. It's taking ages.
Oh, it really is. It's heartbreaking when you're
Oh,
it's chugging along.
dude, rendering is just such a story. I remember when I was rendering my train piece, it was like a 3 day render. I was like, is this ever going to finish? And it's like finally got there in day three, and then the worst thing ever, right? It's like this is me doing like 10 times. Is like when you realize a simple small mistake, and you're like, I'm going to have to go this all over again just for 3 days. It's
Yeah.
just the worst feeling ever. No, but thanks for diving into that because that's always been an interesting thing. Because I'm still trying to get into Foilage eventually. I need to just put the time aside and get into it. But
It's
I've
pretty nice.
oh yeah, of course.
It gives you a lot of the. It gives you a lot of the like. You can load up a example tree, so that's what I did because there's not too many tutorials online. There's some tutorials, but some of them are pretty outdated right now.
Mhm.
So especially if you're using like newer speed tree, it has like a bark node. So you know, like when you have like birch trees and there's like bark sort of rolling off it.
Mhm.
Have you seen that? I think
Right.
yeah, that's a node you can now put into SpeedTree, and you can get that for free, basically, just like some
Right.
cool looking
Damn.
bark. So it's really advanced in terms of making trees and any plants, really.
Mhm.
It's really cool, but like if you're just making grass, like I'd still just go the old fashioned way of making either finding a texture or make your own texture and put it on a card.
Yeah.
Like
Just keep it simple.
yeah,
I think at the day when it comes to all these different things that we mentioned throughout these podcasts, it's just trying to experiment and seeing what works for you. But at the end of the day, though, there's a lot of things that you just have to keep it simple. Like naturally, there's a lot of things that you'll be like, this maybe try it this way. But then at the end of the day, if it's just maybe if it's just something simple, just keep it simple. There's no need to overcomplicate it.
there's a time and place for learning, and
Hmm.
there's a time and place for cheating,
Yeah, of course.
and there's a time and place for just doing what you know. And I think that if you at least learn something, on the thing you did. You don't need to like learn a whole new software. You don't need to learn like a crazy new technique. But if you're learning how to cheat uh, a new way, or if you're like you've never done kit bashing before and you're dedicated to making something by kit bashing it together, then you've learned something, right? So it's pretty handy. But you don't need to like not every project needs to be a completely new thing
Of course.
because obviously you need to work on the skills you already have too, right?
Yeah.
You need to work based on what you know, but just having something that you can sort of expand into is nice. So like if you do like speed tree for example, you don't need to make your whole project be a speed tree deep dive, but you can
Yeah, it
make a
does,
speed
does have to be
tree
one software.
as well as something else, right?
Like I think at the day, like this is dude. I'm actually really glad the way you said this last the way the last few discussions, because this then ties into that question I was talking to you right at the start. It's technical versus
Yeah.
artistic. So this is one thing. I do. Wait, was this what I was originally wanting to talk to you about? Yeah, I think it was. I just there was so much things I prepared today because there were so many things I wanted to talk about, and then I was like, wait, let's leave this question right to the last question. So we'll actually leave this for the last one. So technical and artistic, it's always a healthy balance, and like you said, there sometimes you got to cheat things. Like you just got to, but obviously when we mean cheat, we mean save time and making sure that you're just being efficient at the end of the day. Like you don't need
Yeah.
to have to make every single thing all the time. However, when it comes to my ornate sculpting, I have to, just getting that out there. When I'm doing my
Of course, yeah.
ornaments and my furniture, I have to make everything. That's just the way I have to roll.
That's how it is, yeah.
It's rule number one when it comes
Okay,
to furniture.
that's
That's
fine.
that's just the way it is. But when it comes to, I don't know, grass, and you just want to be, you know what, I'm just going to throw that in there today because that's what I need. Get your
Yeah.
placeholders. You can switch wherever. If you got your prefab set up, whatever it is, switch them over. Do whatever you need to do, and take it from there. But speaking of technical and artistic,
Mm.
oh, here we go. And so it begins. Right, what's your thoughts on, how can I say it? Like, how important do you think the balance between the two? And I know you were saying at the start that what was it? What was the one you were saying? You were saying that you think you're more artistic.
I'm more artistic, and I find it very hard to learn technical stuff.
Yeah, because I always feel that at the day that a lot of them, especially starting out students, which makes so much sense, that we let technical control our like kind of creativity. You know what I mean? And at the day, I
Well, it
feel,
does in a way.
yeah.
Depending on what you want to do. Like, because that's one of the things that I'm for my scene. When I was done with it,
Mhm.
I was feeling definitely the whole like, okay, I'm an artist. I've done pretty good on the art stuff,
Yep.
there's I hit a wall. Like the alien and like all that stuff behind there,
Mhm.
behind the house, all the alien stuff. I hit a technical wall that I just couldn't get past. And so it's nowhere near where I wanted it to be. Like what I envisioned when I was thinking about this and then when I was like planning out how to do the alien and like the particles and the shaders and the
Yeah.
whatever the heck, I was like, damn, this is where I want to go. And then I just couldn't. I
Mhm.
hit a wall. I just couldn't, and I would have spent probably another half a year or something learning how to do it because like
Yeah.
I'm not technical. I know a little bit. I know enough to get by, and I know how to speak with technical people.
Mhm.
I just say make it good, and then they do it. But I'm definitely more of an artist.
Do you think the way it should always be approached is 50-50, or how would you say it should be tackled in terms of just general, just being
It depends
wary
on
of
what
it?
kind of person you are, though, right? Like if
Of
you are a
course.
more technical person, then I'd say try to make the technical shine,
Mhm.
right? Like let's say uh, let's say that you are a technical person and you make some cool shaders, you make some cool, like you make some tools while you're working. Like that's basically what Sean did
Yeah.
when we were working next to each other. Like I was just working on art and doing art stuff, and he would like, "Hey, does this look good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it looks great."
Mhm.
And then sometimes I'd be like, "Damn, I don't know how to do this shader stuff," and he's like, "Hey, just do this and that," and then we slap it together and like, okay, cool. So we would like help each other fill out the gaps that we both had. Uh, and he would spend a lot of his time making tools in Maya for him to work faster.
Mm-hmm.
Like he would literally spend on while he was working on his piece, he was also spending time making like a sort of modular viewer tool in Maya for himself. He'd make like he actually made a tool for like face weighted normals
Wait,
in
okay,
Maya
okay, good on him.
for
Nice.
us to work on. So like I used his script, work doing some face weighted normals for my own scene, and so he spent a lot of time doing just technical stuff, which like that's cool, and
Mm-hmm.
that's stuff that if he were to ever finish his demo reel, god damn it, uh, then he would probably like his demo reel would probably cool if he included more of the technical stuff. If he actually showed how the tools that he did
Definitely
worked in conjunction with the art that he did. You can see how
how he thinks.
his tools and his technical stuff ended up being the end result of the art that he produced. Was for me, like I can't really say that I did much technical stuff. Like I
Yeah,
sure I made shaders, I made like I did, if you want to call designer technical, then sure, the wood siding thing is probably the most technical thing that I did.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, it definitely for me it's more artistic. So I don't know if you can say 50-50
yeah, yeah.
because
No, that's a
it
great answer though.
just doesn't stick with you. Then it just doesn't stick with you. You got to find out how to make it work for you.
Perfect. No, I was looking like that's a great answer because at the end of the day, it's kind of like you said, you have to know when to use it, where to use it, and like you said, what benefits you the most. Like what do you enjoy the most? Like there was one really cool thing that I remember reading about the article as well. That one of my friends was trying to teach me. I'm still haven't dived into that much, but it's lookup tables
Yeah,
and
yeah, you
trying to understand like how they kind of work and their approach to making your what's the main word that describes them? It's not gradient. It's what's it called? Is it gradient? Like
that
what's lookup table's main purpose again?
well, it makes it look good.
Yeah,
See,
of
that's
course,
my
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I'm an artist there. So what I mean, it's a color thing, right?
Yeah,
So it's like
that's the way we describe it. That's exactly
it's
what
a
I would
strip
describe
of
it.
colors, right? That so what I did for my scene, for example, you take a screenshot, you put it into Photoshop, like you adjust the levels, you adjust hue saturation, you adjust whatever you want, and then you copy those adjustments onto a lookup table, so that when that lookup table, when you put that into your scene, it's gonna be basically like how you did it in Photoshop, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So you can it's really nice way to get like more of an effect that you want. Mine is very basic, but it still helps pop out the blues a little bit, helps make the shadows a little bit nicer. um but
Perfect.
yeah, I mean, I know how to use them, but I don't really know the technical.
Yeah, oh dude, like that's the thing. Like when I first came across them, I was like, what's going on here? I don't understand it, but I was like, it's making the image look good, so I don't care.
Yeah,
So as long as it like that's one thing I highly recommend everyone to check out because it does really increase your artwork to that next level. Even if you don't understand everything completely, it's the same with anything. Like experiment, try it, and see what happens. Because at the end of the day, that's one of the main things I think it's been great about this podcast. Is at the end of the day, it's all about not necessarily knowing what you're doing. It's about going right. How do I press this button? Oh gosh, it's changed to the branch. Oh wait, is it good, bad, ugly? I don't know. But you
so that's
tried it.
approach in Designer as well, because Designer is a pretty technical
Mm-hmm.
software, I'd say. But I look at it as a software that lets me see what I'm doing as well, right? It's a visual software, because the great thing is that there's all these nodes, and you're like, I don't know what kind of node I want. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know what. Sure, I'll do a splatter node, and I'm like, that's not what I want. And then I'm like, sure, I'll do a tile generator. Like, okay, tile generator, that's pretty cool. And I get to see everything that I'm doing. I get to see every change that I'm making. I
Of
get to
course.
see what these things are. Oh, histogram scan. I'll do a histogram scan. What does that do, right? And I'll try all these things, and I'm going through each and every one of the nodes. And at some point, it's not that I understand what the node actually does, but I understand what I want it to do for me,
Yeah.
right? So
Exactly.
I at least know enough that I know, like, oh, okay, a slope blur. I know what a slope blur is going to do for what I want to do here. So
Mm-hmm.
I can use that node with confidence. Like I sort of know how it works. I don't really know what it actually does, but I know the times I've used it, it's worked as particular way.
Mm-hmm.
So I work off very visual stuff. I don't really need to know the ins and outs of why it does what it does. I just
Of
need to know
course.
how does it make it look how I want it to look.
Yeah. Thanks so much. What a way to end the main part of the podcast. Thanks for diving into that, because at the end of the day, it's getting that point across and making sure everyone's aware, like when to use things, how to use things. Don't being so OCD with things. That took me a long time to get with, and like I said, it's all about trial and error. Right. Okay. So Trym, now it's the crazy random bit of the podcast.
Right.
Lots of random questions. You name it. Are you ready?
God. I don't know. Hold on. Let me drink. Let me drink the water.
Drink water. It's warm up time, folks. So, as always, folks, if you guys are new to the podcast, we literally end the podcast with a bunch of fun random questions from your favorite film, you name it, and we'll take it from there. Okay?
Sure. Let's go.
Right. First one. Let's just start with it. Favorite movie and why?
Favorite movie I would say would be recently the Parasite.
Oh, right. Okay. I've not seen it.
You should.
I'm
It's
so
good.
sorry. Because the guy who's the director, one of my favorite films that he's done is
Host.
Snowpiercer.
Oh, okay.
Wait, what were we gonna say?
I was gonna say The Host because it's also a good one, but yeah, sure. Snowpiercers as well. That's fine. That's fine.
I'll let you off since you say it's fine. It's okay. I'll hold my. It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. I got a YouTube recommendation of a guy who said that Snowpiercer is basically the sequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
I heard that too. It's meant to be the
Yep.
biggest myth ever, but if that's true, I have
Pretty
no
fun.
idea. It'd be so cool if it was.
But yeah, no, Parasite definitely. It's great visually. It's amazing acting. It's just good soundtrack. Everything about that movie is just an interesting. Like you can watch it muted, and it looks so good.
Right. Wow. Right. Okay. I've never even thought about if it'd be something I'd be interested in watching. But the fact that you really enjoy it, because you're the second person now on this part of the podcast to say that film, and I really have to give it a go. So
You should.
the next one, right? This one's a random one, but the reason I chose this one is because I knew you like it, or I hope you like it. Fingers crossed, you're like, I hate this, Ross. Just give up. Stop doing podcasts.
God damn it, Ross.
If you were to be in a sci-fi alien movie,
Okay.
what would it be and why?
A sci-fi alien movie.
Like, is there a game or even a game? Is there because I know you like the theme of horrors and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if
I like it, but I'm scared of it.
Yeah, oh dude, I'm the same. So it's okay. We'll be scared together, whatever it may be. So is
I
there
like
like a
the what are they, mimics in Prey?
oh gosh, wait, let me check this.
Is
Mimics.
that what it calls?
That sounds terrifying. Wait, let's have a look. Mimics, and the film's called Prey.
No, it's not a film. This is a game. Sorry, you
Oh,
said
right,
game.
sorry,
I went
lol.
straight to game.
Oh, right, okay, cool. Lol, that's so funny. We're definitely keeping that in because that's brilliant. Well, I didn't know what you're talking about. I was like, is this a film?
It's probably a film too. Yeah, they're little little things that can camouflage themselves into inanimate objects.
Right.
So like they can be whatever. They can be the mug on your table, and then they suddenly just lunge at you.
Oh my god, right, okay.
Pretty cool, yeah. I like them.
Like when it comes to like horror films and stuff, like there was two films right growing up as a kid that this is why I don't trust my sister sometimes. Okay,
Right.
so I was literally 9 at the time, and my sister goes like this. Oh, there's this video. I've got my two stepbrothers, and they were like, oh, we watched this great film. You'd love it. I was like, I'm 9-year-old just watching my Aladdin all the time, just like Disney, and it was The Ring.
Right.
And my sister says, "Oh, there's this great thing with a fridge," and I was like, it was literally near the start of the film, and I was like, "Okay, it sounds." I was like, to my sister, "This seems very scary. Are you sure I'm allowed to watch this at the time?" And then suddenly a body disappears out the fridge, and I'm just like, "Oh my god!" And it's the worst feeling ever. I was like, hated my sister for the rest of my life, and ever since that, and then when the rings just crawling out the TV, I was like,
Oh yeah, no, it's too
oh,
much.
Too much.
Too much.
I was like, how could you just put the worst scenario ever? And then to top it off, right? My dad and sister are watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
God.
one of the earlier ones, and I think I was 11. Or I don't know how old I was, so young.
Man, you had a hard time growing up, huh?
Yeah, they just kept like, trying to put me on the spot, and I was just like, the guy's just getting his face peeled off, and I was just like, and the guy put on the guy's mask. I was like, come on, like, come on. I was like, really? I was like just watching my Goofy movie and like chilling, and you're just like throwing this at me. As like, horror. I hate horror films. I'm sorry, I can't stand them.
No, it's okay. I watch them reluctantly.
They're just the worst. Like that's why I was intrigued because I was going to ask you. Recently I've asked two guests so far if you had to fight alongside the aliens or the predators. Like that was one thing I thought would be really cool. Like what's I'll ask you just because why not? Like what side would you choose if you had to choose?
I'd probably go with the aliens. I mean, I remember playing Alien versus Predator 2 back when that was a game still,
Right,
and
I didn't play this. What was it like?
it was amazing, honestly. Especially when you're playing as aliens, because you could like crawl on the walls and you'd
Mm-hmm.
like leap from them, and
Oh, that'd be cool.
it was like if you were crawling on the ceiling, your world was upside down, right? So you'd
Yeah, yeah,
see them, everyone walking. It was just really disorienting, but really fun. So yeah, I
yeah.
want to be an alien.
That's sick. Good answer. I always say in this answer, I'm just gonna go to the predators because if the aliens turn around, I'm screwed. Because like if they
Exactly.
just switch sides, I just know like and they have the two mouth thing. No, get that away from me. Nah, that
True.
just that ain't right. Right. Speaking of games, favorite
Yep.
game.
Hmm.
Normally the hardest one out of these.
Yeah, no, it's a hard one, huh? I don't know, man. Favorite game? I played a lot of Diablo 2.
All right. Okay. Interesting.
And I mean, Diablo 1 was what got me into games. I was like 6 years old, and my brothers would play Diablo 1, and I would just watch them because I was too scared to play it myself. It was a
Yeah.
scary game. And I think when I was like I was allowed to play a little bit. I only got down to like the second level of the catacombs, and I saw the red light around Butcher, and I would restart the game again and again and again and
Is
again
that
and
bad?
again.
Oh my god.
Um, so I have a lot of good memories from Diablo, definitely.
We're just sharing all our horrible experiences.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's too
just,
scary,
yeah,
but it was good.
we're just like we. It's that feeling like you crave it, but you don't want it, but you crave it, but you don't. You're just like, I want to see what's going on, but please don't turn around the corner.
Exactly.
It's the crazy. Oh, that's the thing. So like, I'm really glad you said Diablo because we've never had that said yet. I love the cinematics for Diablo.
Oh,
I
it's so
think
good.
they're so freaking good. Like when like I don't like I've not played it, but it's like when you see all the story and like the light versus the dark and the cloud
You
just coming
haven't
over.
played it?
I know I've not. I'm so sorry, man. I've not played it.
God damn it, Ross.
It's like you're just like I hate this guy. It's just
No,
like
no, yeah, I'm having the same. You know, when I said that Snowpiercer is so-so, I'm having the
oh.
same reaction to
See,
that.
this is our 50-50. This is goes back to our argument about technical versus artistic. This is the even playing field now. This is the 50-50 discussion. It's like it's okay. We've balanced it out. Okay, this is
Yeah,
the fair play discussion. Right.
balance is fine.
What is one thing you can't live without?
Uh,
Is there anything that
one
you like?
thing I
I need
can't
that.
live. That's a good question, man. That's a really good question. I don't know actually. I
Because
really like my cats,
all right, okay, awesome, good choice. Got to have your cats.
but I guess my partner as well would be like.
Please say that she has her headphones on right now. I know she's playing Animal Crossing. She's like,
No,
wait, what
no,
did you just say?
no, she's sitting with the cats. So.
You should just turn around, right? Look at her right now and just smile, and then and then slowly turn back. And it's like you can just tell something's going on.
No,
Just
I
causing
think
mischief.
I think either the cats or like just honestly a PC.
Yeah,
There's
that
so
was
much
my
you can
answer
do on
all
a
the time.
PC. Like it's a safe answer, but like come on, I gotta do my stuff.
You got to have the PC, man. Right. So we've got two more questions. Right. If you were to work in any other job that was not related to art, what would it be and why?
I'd probably be something like construction or something.
All right. Nice. Good. Awesome.
I used to before I got into art stuff. I worked at sounds fancy. I worked in the labs,
Right.
but I was a basically construction guy in laboratories in Norway.
Right. Wow. Nice.
So I would like set up and dismantle different experiments that they had going on. I would like destroy a wall if they needed more space.
Mm-hmm.
Just I don't know, just something about doing really physical work and just like demolishing stuff and building stuff is just really fun, and it's also nice exercise. So
So we've got here, folks, the truth to why he made the piece. It was nothing about making art. It was about making something so you can break it and just go, you know what? We're breaking it with an alien. We've got the
yeah,
truth out now.
yeah,
Awesome.
exposed.
Exposed. No, but that's the thing. Oh, dude, this would be a cool thing. I know this probably makes no much. Well, actually, it kind of does make sense. But it's like when you said there about the chemicals and stuff. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but making a really epic Breaking Bad scene would be really cool.
Absolutely,
Like
for sure.
imagine just like, oh, dude, that's tremendous.
Honestly,
I think that. Oh, and you go.
I should go back to Norway and take some pictures of the labs because like it was a lot of cool equipment. They even had like a aerospace engine, which was like super
Right?
cool for any sort of hard surface stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I don't know, man.
That's the inspiration for you. You know what to do for your next project, man. No more Foilage. You'll just get saying no to trees, sci-fi, chemicals. You're
There
sorted.
we go.
So every time, man, I finish the podcast with the same question for every single guest.
All right.
If you could, if you could have any animal as a pet, from the animal kingdom or from anything fantasy that's roughly the same size of a laptop, what would you choose and why?
So okay, so any animal doesn't matter. Like if it's a dragon, it would just be a laptop-sized dragon.
Yeah, and it could be like so. We've had dragon as well. We've had so far. What have we had? We've had a squirrel that holds a spoon. It was from like a League of Legends.
What?
So many crazy things we've
Okay.
had. My favorite one is a great white shark in an aquarium, because
Okay.
that's my favorite animal. And
Right.
then we've also had my personal favorite answer was from Ryan. He said, um, from do you know the guys who pick the locks in Fantastic Beasts, the little green dudes, the guys
Uh,
who look like Groot.
sure.
Yeah, just pretend. Yeah, yeah, I know them.
Oh, those
The
slides,
bull
yeah.
truckles, yeah, those things. Woo! I completely understand what Ross is talking about. Just nod your head and agree.
Yeah, nodding. Yes, yes.
So, so if you could have anything, what would you choose?
Man, I actually have I 3D printed a little Cthulhu.
Oh my god,
Uh,
what is a Cthulhu? Am I going to get heck for not knowing this?
you know the evil squid guy? Like he's one of the great deities sort of. He's underwater. He's like big and scary.
Right.
He's got little
Oh my
wings.
god, that is terrifying.
Yeah. He's Lovecraftian horror basically, and
Right.
he's kind of scary. I have a little guy of him on my desk right now that I made and 3D printed. So maybe just like a real one that's
Oh my.
slightly.
Have you had that, dude? Dude, you'd be haunted for your life.
You
Like,
know, well, true, I guess. Yeah. Shit. I don't think about that. What if he haunts me?
that is. I imagine he was like, oh no, but that's a great answer though. That's something that I did not expect. That is mental. A Cthulhu, right? I've got to have to research on these because they look. What is that? Is mental. They literally it's like a massive floating brain, but with like octopus. Oh nah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. No, he's very scary. He's very very scary.
Great answer. We're all for it, folks. We're ending the podcast with the Cthulhu. It looks epic. You'll see it on screen right now. I hope you feel terrified the way I've edited. I hope it scared you. And oh,
Scared.
dude, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for giving me so many compliments that made me feel like it was a bit too much.
Oh no, dude, I'm always it's just the way I am. Like when it comes to seeing artwork, I just start geeking out. Like if I see someone that I really like when it comes to artwork, I'm just like I need to have them on the podcast. I just need to talk to them. It's so cool. Like
I appreciate it. I really do.
like anytime, man. Everyone tuning in, make sure to give Trym a follow. All his social media platforms would have been playing as you saw the podcast. And if you guys are tuning on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, smash the like button as always, and turn on notifications to be notified every single week when the podcast is live. With that said, folks, we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.